It is Monday, December 9th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very educational, get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Got my new gi pants, got my second degree stripe on my blue belt. It's very, very good. And, it was the advanced class. I did not go to the morning class because I did not think that I could fit both of them in one day and get all the other shit done. I mean, dude, if I do that 6 a.m. class, I'm like wrecked for the rest of the day. There's just no possible way to get my shit back together enough to get in another jiu-jitsu class for the day. I don't know, maybe someday I'll have that kind of endurance and capability, but not at the moment. It takes a lot of personal infrastructure to get to that point. You got to be having your cardio up, you have to have your flexibility up, and you definitely have to have your diet right to be able to kick out that much energy more than once in a day. Or you just have to be conditioned to working 8-hour shifts. If I was back to a day working for other people and I was kicking out 8 hours a day in actual hardcore work, I could probably manage it because I've kept my energy level up the whole day. But as far as like peaking it at early morning hours and then running all day long and doing everything I got to do and then going back and doing another class, it's a little bit beyond my depth at this moment. Like I said, something that can change, but not at the moment. It's something you have to kind of work up to. But I got a good start off just by getting in that Monday class because it is a Jiu-Jitsu 2 day and not a Jiu-Jitsu 1 or Fundamentals day. It's Jiu-Jitsu 2. And if I do the morning class, that one it's almost more intense just because it's less instruction and it's a longer class. And so when I say less instruction, it's like we'll take one move and we'll do it for like 5-10 minutes and then break and do something else. And there's not usually a whole lot of break in between either. It's like we usually just transition from one thing to another. It's like we do one thing for about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. And like I said, we will do it for longer. And if there's more than 2 people there, we'll do it for even longer. And so, it's one of those things where we really get to hammer down those reps and get in a lot of repetitions. So that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the morning class more. But just the same, it is more intense, and I really wanted to get my stripe while the head instructor was there. That was really my point there. Because it is such a rarity that I do get to see him in the gym, and he was there today. So it kind of rounded everything off perfectly. That I sacrificed the intensity of the morning class for the pleasure of getting my stripe while my head instructor was present. But anyway, like I said, we got in a lot of really good stuff today. And it's one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to try and get in the evening class, because like the last time that I did evening class, he wasn't in, but the time that he did it after, the time that the next week after that, he had. So it's like, fuck, okay, I'm just gonna start showing up to the evening classes until I get a class with this dude, and then I can go back to doing morning classes again. And eventually work out to hopefully being able to do both in one day. Not quite there yet. But anyway, so yeah, it was pretty educational. We were doing a little bit of stuff with the lasso today, with the arm lasso, and some of you guys may be familiar with it, but some not. And it's basically you got both sleeves. You got one foot on the hip. And then from the outside in, you've got one of your legs wrapped over one of their arms, and then hooking your foot on, like right up under their armpit. And so like a little bit of the drilling today was just trying to maintain or progress from that I guess it's a guard kind of thing. It's like semi spider guard kind of thing. But anyway, I didn't find too much difficulty in maintaining it. My biggest problem was determining where I wanted to go from it. Because there's a few different sweeps that you can get in from there, but it's one of those where if you move your foot, you give up something, and so it's like you really want to have an idea of where you want to go from one position to another, because if you don't, you're going to give up something. You're going to move your foot off of a hip or something like that, and your opponent's just going to push it in. And there, you've lost one leg. Now they've got a side they can pass you on. And so, I was really cognizant to try and manage my distance. And that was something that I found my training partners weren't doing as much, was trying to maintain the pressure on the upper body by retaining the sleeves, and at the same time trying to keep their foot pressured against you. So it's like there are several pressure points that if you're maintaining some tension on them, it makes it much more difficult for your opponent to navigate away into a position of advantage. And so, like I said, I did good at maintaining it, but I need to work on the progressions from. And that was really where I was getting stuck, is if I was trying to transition away from that into something else, I wasn't like sweeping my opponent well enough or something to that effect, where I needed to get back right and get back into that same position, which I was able to do. But like I said, I need to be able to transition from that to a more dominant position, because it's pretty secure. But it's not secure forever, and there are multiple ways that your opponent can address them, and I tried to be a little more creative with how I addressed it, rather than trying to power out by yanking my arms loose or something like that. It's like, okay, my opponent's pulling me in, so what can I change about my angle which will allow me to come in on them, but at the same time take off pressure from somewhere else. Like one of my legs, or my hips, or can I relieve the pressure off of the back of my armpit and get my body around that? And that was one way I didn't really think about doing it, because there was a possibility of me getting my back taken, and the guy that I was working with is really, really good. So the possibility of him getting my back was like damn near 100%. So giving it up to change to that position, it didn't feel very tenable. And so, like, really what I was trying to focus more on was taking away one of his pressure points. And I focused mostly on his legs, and that allowed me to lean back with my shoulders. I let my arms go kind of limp, and I was using them more for directional. So like, if they've got both of your arms, one thing you can do is, if you bring both of your hands together, that takes the pressure that they had by both of your hands, and it turns it into one pressure point. And it's much less stable than if you were to extend both of your arms outward. Because then they've got, the wider you open your arms and they've got your sleeves, to some extent, the better control they have over you, and at the same time they can bring their elbows in even with you moving your arms out, and still retain grip on that sleeve. But now if you bring both of your hands together, you can swing to either the left or the right, and depending on how you have your legs arranged, you might be able to get one of your elbows up under one of their knees, and this changes the game entirely. And so that's really what I was focused on doing. Is I'm like, okay, so if I take the leg that they've got their foot up on the hip, if I take that leg, so assuming it's my left leg, if I take it back, I've relieved the pressure on it, and they're stepping on air. Now I can take one of my hands, if at all possible, and push it down on top of that shin and maybe pull it outward, and now I've got their hip up facing me, and even though they've got both of my arms, I can pass from that side. So if I've pulled it over to my right hand side, I've got their right hip up and I can pass to their right side. And so like I said, I just focused rather than on trying to waste the energy and expend the energy of addressing just the hands. I took it down to one, made it into one pressure point, and then I focused on changing my position with my feet. And this is where it allows you to open things up, because like if you've got both of your hands together, you can press one of their knees and not really lose position. So I kind of focused on his left knee and just kind of rolled out toward it, and then pushed my legs back and navigated around. And so that was one way to address it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And again, it really forced me to consider, it's like, okay, how can I change the pressure here where I'm not really giving him anything, but I'm not losing anything, It's like, how can I change the pressure where, he still has all the grips and he thinks he's wonderful for having all those grips, but I can change the pressure in just one way that's going to turn that advantage into a disadvantage, to where all they have is, say, one hand, and their hand is between their legs to try and keep it, and something to that effect, where I just change the pressure, change the angle, makes the whole game different. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music, and of course we're going to start with Body Count, and I believe Carnivore is due out very, very soon. I'm not sure whether it's out now or what, but I need to get it. Anyway, so as far as our first dance, we're going to go with a little bit of... Oh, man, I didn't even pick it out. I haven't played this one in a while, and this seems kind of timely. Black Hoodie, First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was 12 Foot Ninja with Coming For You. Yeah. And so, as far as where we're going to go tonight, yeah, I don't know. I got a whole bunch of stuff here on my tabs, so I guess we'll start with that and see where it leads us, as we normally do. I had to do a whole bunch of weird migrating shit over, because I'm still suspended on Twitter for some stupid fucking reason, and so yeah, I have to use more than one browser, more than one ID if I want to use Twitter. So yeah. Anywho, where we're gonna go? Got this thing here. It's on zerohedge.com. And I think that it's appropriate to start with this one because, well, you'll figure it out. Morgan Stanley firing 1,500 bankers in year-end cost cuts. And this is by Tyler Durden, and hopefully they'll tell us exactly where this article is. Oh yeah, here it is. It's on CNBC. Here we go. I like to give proper attribution, and Zero Hedge does not do that, so keep my point. Fuck you, CNBC. No, I'm not going to turn my fucking ad blocker off. Fuck you. Anyway, this is on CNBC.com. Morgan Stanley is cutting jobs due to uncertain global environment, sources say. And this is published Monday, December 9th, 2019 at 1:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was authored by David Reed and Hugh Sun. So, yes, double penis. Morgan Stanley is cutting roughly 2% of its workforce due to an uncertain global economic outlook, according to people with knowledge of the situation. The job cuts at the investment bank, the world's largest equities trading firm, and a leading mergers advisor will hit technology and operations roles the hardest, said the people who declined to be named. New York-based Morgan Stanley had 532 employees as of September 30th. Mark Lake, a company spokesperson, declined to comment. In October, the bank posted third-quarter profit and revenue figures that beat analysts' expectations. The company produced $10.1 billion in revenue, exceeding analysts' average estimate by approximately $500 million. During the post-financial crisis era marked by declining trading revenue, Wall Street firms often cut jobs towards the end of the year to avoid paying out bonuses. Morgan Stanley is the first known instance of this, but other firms will likely announce cuts as planning for 2020 continues. Morgan Stanley shares have climbed 25% this year amid a broad rebound in bank stocks. So yeah, I would wager that most of the people they're firing were involved in their blockchain segments. But yeah, that's kind of interesting that they would kick everybody to the curb like right before they're going to be issuing their bonuses. But you know, it's apparently not a new thing, because they've got some sort of context, at least enough to be able to recognize when it's going on. But yeah, Morgan Stanley cutting a lot of jobs, and they aren't the only one. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they're the first one. There was one not too long ago, and I think it was Goldman Sachs. They were shit-canning a bunch of people too. So yeah, Morgan Stanley shit-canning people. And you know, it's funny that I don't know. I don't know why I think that it has something to do with their blockchain division, but I think it has something to do with that, mostly because we don't need them for cryptocurrencies, and it could be that they overestimated exactly how many people they would need to include in such ventures, and so now that they've got most of the shit hammered out, they don't actually need those 1,200 people around anymore, and they've fired them. I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility. You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff, there's a bit of a learning curve to begin with, at least with cryptocurrencies. And so, you know, something like overestimating exactly how many people you would need, it's not beyond reason. But you know, it does give you an idea of what's going on beneath the hood in the market, that such a big participant should be making such large adjustments in their personnel. And 2%, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of people. You know, 1,500 though, if you were in a town of say 15,000 and 1,500 of them were employed there, you'd probably notice it. But yeah, as far as, you know, the overall trend, I think we will be seeing more of that. I think that most of these banks that, you know, sorry about that, whatever regulatory umbrage they're facing or additional friction they're facing, it might be causing them to modify their operations a bit. I would say also, though, that firing such a high number of people could be kind of an issue later on with regard to the structure of them. You know, like, say they fired a lot of people in their IT division. Say they were attacked before they were able to employ more people in those positions. And that could be a significant liability. It'd be something like 9/11 happening while NORAD was off doing like 26 different emergency type drills, you know, where they were responding to similar stimuli to what was actually going on, and at one point they didn't know whether it was parts of the simulation or, you know, the parts of the training exercise, or that it was an actual event. Now, how those two events happen to coincide on the same exact day, I have no idea. But it reeks of inside job to me. I mean, because like 364 days, and 12 hours out of the year, they're active, and they, the slightest little blip in your direction, if you've deviated off of course in an airplane by more than 2 degrees for more than, I think it's like 7 or 8 minutes, they're immediately calling you. And within 15 minutes, they've got people on you. They've got 2 birds in the sky coming to get you. So, why that didn't happen on 9/11, it's anybody's guess. The excuse is that NORAD was doing a lot of training missions at the moment, and they had been doing things like spoofing hijacked planes on the radar and stuff like that. And so it completely confused everybody as to what was actually happening. Like I said, I mean, you couldn't plan it better. I mean, like if you were planning to have such an attack, that's exactly what you would do. Be like, okay, well, what's their schedule like? Okay, they're going to be doing a training exercise. What, 9/11? They're going to have their entire eastern seaboard shut down just for these training exercises? It's perfect. But, and again, you have to be planning for months for something like that. You have to be planning possibly even for years to pull off something like that. I guess people just disregard all the logistics involved. I mean, supposedly Osama bin Laden was planning all this shit from a cave in Afghanistan. I mean, give me a fucking break. I mean, unless he had like a direct tie-in to all the CCTV cameras in Washington D.C. and throughout the Eastern Seaboard. I don't understand how that would happen. I mean, they would definitely have had Washington hacked to have that kind of scheduling and be able to line all the dots up like that. Anywho, and I gotta say, either option is not good. I mean, thinking about it that way, it's like either A, we've still got insiders, within the government that like helped that shit happen, and or B, Washington and all of that is hacked to fuck so badly that somebody in a cave in Afghanistan can plan such a terror attack and coordinate it all. I mean, come on, man. Either option is not good. I mean, really, you want me to believe they got lucky? So anyway, this next thing I got here, it's on CoinDesk. Again, Telegram investor documents say BNY Mellon, Credit Suisse, helped process $1.7 billion, that's with a B, ICO money. And this is authored on December 9th, 2019 at 2200 UTC. And this is by Anna Baydakova, so no penis. Telegram told investors it was using Wall Street megabanks BNY Mellon and Credit Suisse to move and store fiat currency raised in last year's blockchain token sale, court filings show. On Monday, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, filed a proposed order with the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York to request the British High Court's assistance in getting the testimony of Telegram's former chief investment advisor, John Hyman. It followed a similar filing on Friday from the SEC, which has accused Telegram of selling unregistered securities and seeking to block the issuance of Telegram Open Network TONs project tokens. Attached to the new document are Telegram Messenger exchanges between Hyman and some of the investors who were negotiating the purchase of the tokens, known as grams, that would run on the TON blockchain. Ugh, what's the fucking use of that? During one such chat, Telegram employee Shyam Parikh explained to an investor how the funds were supposed to reach the company. Quote, "We will receive the funds through BNY, which will forward the funds to CS, Schweiz, AG for final credit to Credit Suisse AG, Parikh wrote, providing the international bank code for wiring money to Credit Suisse via the SWIFT network. BNY Mellon and Credit Suisse declined to comment. It's not clear from the filing whether the investors Parikh was communicating with used either bank to send funds to Telegram. The bank's apparent involvement is notable since few financial institutions have been eager to work with cryptocurrency startups and projects due to perceived reputational and compliance risks. However, Telegram was an established company before it embarked on the TON project. Further, BNY Mellon and Credit Suisse have been dipping their toes into the shallow end of the crypto pool. In April, BNY partnered with the Intercontinental Exchange's Bitcoin futures subsidiary BACT to set up, quote, geographically distributed private key storage. Credit Suisse hosted a full-day symposium on digital assets at its New York office last month. Both banks are members of Finality, the consortium building, quote, utility settlement coin. A utility settlement coin. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of. Investor allocations. Further details of Telegram's $1.7 billion fundraise also became public thanks to the filings, such as investors' names and the amounts they had invested. According to messages exchanged between Telegram employees and several U.S.-based investment funds, Kleiner Perkins, in particular, secured a $30 million confirmed allocation of grams. Lightspeed China, the regional arm of Lightspeed Ventures, invested $25 million, and FBG Capital put in $10 million. A bunch of smaller investors were approved to get in via a California-based fund managed by Elysium Ventures, the messages show. The list includes tech industry celebrities such as WordPress creator Matt Mullenweg, Foursquare co-founder Naveen Selvadurai, co-founder and CEO of Yelp Jeremy Stoppelman, True Ventures partner Malik, former TechCrunch co-editor-in-chief Alexia Bonatsos, my apologies, who runs her Dream Machine Fund, founder of the mobile commerce platform Karma, Lee Linden, and the Hong Kong fashion billionaire Silas Chow. Elysium's fund agreed to invest $12 million in total, according to messages between the fund's managing partner Nikolai Orishkin and John Hyman. Answering a question about, quote, where's all this money coming from to Telegram in another chat, Hyman said, quote, Big Russia. CIS bid quite a lot in Israel and Pavel fan club. Pavel Durov is Telegram's secretive CEO. The Commonwealth of Independent State, CIS, is an association of former Soviet republics, including Russia. On Friday, the SEC asked the court to request the help of the High Court of England and Wales to obtain Hyman's testimony and documents related to Telegram's token pre-sale. The court has previously ordered the deposition of Telegram's CEO Durov, Vice President Ilya Perekopsky, and Investor Relations Officer Shyam Parikh. The court will hear the SEC and Telegram discuss whether Gram is an unregistered security on February 18th or 19th, or through 19th. You know what? I don't care if they are an unregistered security. If they want to get in and people want to give them money, too fucking bad. Get over it. The SEC needs to grow the fuck up and get over it. I mean, they aren't doing a very good job of regulating shit on our side of things. You know, on the fiat side of things. And so trying to regulate Telegram or the deals they're doing, fuck you. It's a new space. People are willing to try it out. It is not up to you to get their money back. So, yeah. If they want to pursue some sort of litigation afterward, proving that there were elements of fraud or fraudulent activity or criminal activity will be that much easier to do when you can say to the court, look, they were operating unregistered. They knew they were operating unregistered. We told them that they were operating unregistered. We told all of their investors that they were operating unregistered, and they still chose to give them money. So, it is not our fault. We have no liability here, and you can just go kiss somebody else. Really, the elements of criminal activity, again, terribly easy to prove, and especially if they aren't registered. If they are registered, then they'll be able to come back and point at you and say, hey, look, the SEC signed off on us. The SEC said we were all good and we were 100% compliant and everything else. We were registered with them. We were licensed with them. Give me a fucking break. That all that means is that it's going to be 4 to 6 months before anybody knows anything is wrong, and they're only going to know something is wrong because they failed to report to the SEC and they read some article saying that they were like 4 months behind on their reports or some shit like that to the SEC, and then we start getting worried and start wanting to get our money out. But, by then the damage has already been done. And all of the important players, all the people that didn't necessarily invest a shit ton of money, but were in control of everything, they've already liquidated. They sold at the top. And it just, they cashed out for some of their friends. And in the meantime, it's depreciating in value because everybody else is selling off that, gets wind of what's going on. And, some percentage of people will make money. Specifically Hyman and all of their little, insider investors here, and everybody else will get hosed. But you know what else happens from that, though? And this is the part that annoys me about the existence of the SEC and their whole regulatory frameworks and the CFTC and the same thing, is that when it comes down to taking these people to task, we don't get to. We get to take their mother company to task, but all of the other people, the people that actually made the decisions, the people that signed off on the transactions, the people that were actually responsible for shit going bad, they don't go to jail. And they might get like some sort of fine, they might get a fee or some shit like that, but they don't go to jail. Their lawyer negotiates for them. They maybe do a little bit of public service, or they do some bullshit. They give some money to somebody, and everything is cool. But we're still fucked. We as in investors and whatnot, little investors that weren't in on the upper tranche that were able to liquidate before anybody else knew that there was something wrong. Because we weren't part of that group, we get to take it in the shorts. And everybody involved gets to walk. We lose our life savings, we lose the value of our home or our car, whatever that we collateralize to be able to try and invest and get out of our current situation. Whatever we put up for stake is lost to these people. Now, of course, it's our own fault for not doing our homework. But the way that the punishment for that bad investment is distributed is unjust. If the SEC is going to exist, if the CFTC is going to exist, they need to put these people in prison. It's like those cops the other day shot the shit out of that UPS truck. And here's what bugs me about it. It's not that they could have handled the issue differently. I believe they could have. But beyond that, not a single one of those cops would have passed the conceal and carry class that I took. Not a single one of them. Because we spent like a month discussing nothing else. Not ballistics, not stances, not anything else, but the legalities involved with possessing a firearm and carrying it around. Things like deadly force, when it is actually legal to utilize deadly force. How to use deadly force, considering not only our target, but what lies beyond our target. Because a lot of times, bullets don't stop in our target. Especially if we're using something like a 9mm. It goes right through our target. So what's behind our target? Is there other cars? Are there other people? Is there maybe a house that has people inside it, that if we shoot the guy in front of the house, it's going to go through them, through the house, through the people in the house? That's what I was trained to do for the first month of this class. So you want to tell me that those people actually went through a class like I did and know the legalities of what they're... No. They're not held to the same standard that I am. They can go out there wild bill and shoot off fucking rounds all day long, and the worst they're going to get is maybe a citation, maybe have to sit at an office desk for a month or something like that. But then they're back out on the street again. And so it's like, I mean, maybe they're getting some sort of disciplinary action, but unless it includes getting their rights to carry a gun taken away and maybe them put in jail for a couple months or something, I'm really not interested in it. Because that's what would happen to me. If I ran around on fucking... I don't care if there's somebody that had stolen a UPS truck, is holding a fucking hostage or whatever. If I get out of my vehicle with a firearm and start shooting at them on a fucking freeway with live traffic all around me, I go to prison. I go to prison for a very, very long time. And they charge me by the round discharged. And if I hit anybody else other than my intended target, oh my God, I'm never going to see the fucking light of day again. But not the police. No. They can go wild bill out there and everything is fine. There's something wrong with that. When they're held to the same standard of justice that I am, then that shit's going to stop. They're going to consider what's beyond their fucking target. They're going to try and de-escalate a situation before pulling the gun out and start shooting people. When they're facing liability for things like, choking a guy to death, which I saw on my fucking Twitter feed the other day. When they're facing the same level of liability that I would, maybe make it to where if they're taken to task for a crime, that they get no representation from their union. They have to hire their own fucking lawyer and deal with it that way. That shit would stop immediately. Because again, the department wouldn't fucking take the liability. If they have some roided out cop that's got some issues with, his wife or whatever, and he's bringing that shit to work and taking it out on the public, they're not going to endure the liability of themselves being brought into question, what their decision-making process is, that they even hired somebody like that. Or kept that person on the street with a gun. I mean, again, it's a matter of liability and what our priorities are. I'm sorry, I didn't see any concern for public safety. I saw cops hiding behind private individuals in their vehicles. That's not a concern for their safety. You're just fucking drawing fire to innocent civilians. It's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. It's shit like that when I see it, I see something like that and I think to myself, maybe there was something else going on. Maybe like the UPS truck and the UPS driver, all that stuff was like window dressing. The real target was either the guy that was in the UPS truck, the UPS truck driver, or one of the innocent civilians that got clipped around there and they had to start a situation in order to develop a cover for it. I don't know. I mean, I know that sounds really wacky conspiracy theory or something like that, but, you know, I mean, like, really, that didn't look like a reasonable response to the situation to me. And again, that's just me. You know, from what I understand, those UPS vehicles are all GPSed. The contents of the vehicle are insured. So, you know, tracking the guy down, following him via a fucking helicopter too high to shoot at. I mean, come on. You got all these tools. You know, he could have been tracking him. If either he or his hostage had a fucking cell phone on him, could have been tracking him by the cell phone towers that you've got that fucking razor sharks for. No. Got to pretend we're living out an episode of 24. Or we're living in an occupied zone and we're shooting up the enemy, man. Got to get Al Qaeda. Come on, you know. I think it's TV. You know, these guys get home from the job and watch them fucking Jack Bauer tune up somebody, you know, or some shit like that. I don't know. I really can't explain it, but there's something else going on there, you know, because, like I said, that just doesn't look reasonable to me. I've never had an interaction with a police officer that would lead me to believe that anything I saw there was part of their standard operating procedure. You know, it's like I'm watching something that somebody made up on a fucking Hollywood movie set or some shit like that. Because it did not seem reasonable to me. And like I said, it seemed like the whole situation there was creating way more fucking danger than was absolutely necessary. I don't know. Again, it didn't seem like the big priority was, you know, getting the hostage or making sure that nobody else got hurt or unnecessarily, that is. And so, yeah. Something else is going on there. I can't describe it. I don't understand it, but it doesn't look legit to me. Anywho, back to stuff that actually matters for cryptocurrency. And, yeah. I think we just saw something here about Finality, and, I clicked on it, and this is actually from it's a little older. This is from June 13th, 2019 at 8 UTC. But this is very interesting here. 14 banks, 5 tokens inside Finality's expansive vision for interbank blockchains. Sounds fucking ridiculous, but let's go with it. And this is by Ian Allison. So yes, penis. And so here it is. Finality International is building the missing link in the banking blockchain. Formerly known as Utility Settlement Coin, USC, the newly rechristened UK-based project is developing blockchain versions of 5 major fiat currencies: the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, the British pound, the Japanese yen, and the euro. Led by former Deutsche Bank... Deutsche? Oh, God. Deutsche Bank executive Rom, the consortium boasts an ample budget, having just raised $63.2 million from 14 shareholder banks. In a recent interview with CoinDesk, Rom and other bank and tech executives involved in Finality shed some light on the previously secretive project's plans, starting with the role these tokens, still referred to as USC, would play in the enterprise blockchain ecosystem and the wider financial world. What's the point of representing fiat currency, the very thing that Bitcoin sought to usurp, on a blockchain? According to Rom, it's a means to an end, not an end in itself. He pointed to the many private blockchain projects trying to tokenize wholesale markets, either at the proof-of-concept stage or close to production. All are lacking one thing: fiat currency on the ledger. Pfft. We already have that. They're called stablecoins. In other words, it's all well and good if a stock or bond zips around on a distributed electronic network, but if the cash side of the trade is being done the old-fashioned way, it'll still take days to settle, defeating much of the purpose. Hence, the USC would address what many in the industry have come to refer to as the cash-on-ledger problem. To Rahm, the funding round disclosed last week was an important validation of this idea, he told CoinDesk. Quote, "The real story here is that a committed group of investors believes they have found the answer to the cash leg. Now it's a giant marker for pushing the tokenization of wholesale markets." Bullshit. Bridge to JPM coin. To be sure, megabank JP Morgan Chase, not one of Finality's shareholders, has similar ideas for JPM coin, the fiat-backed cryptocurrency it is developing for its clients to send each other money. Quote, "We really think this cash token is the foundation for enabling other enterprise blockchain applications," Christine Moy, executive director and head of JP Morgan's Blockchain Center of Excellence, said at Coin Consensus 2019 last month. "We've been researching the enterprise blockchain now for about 4 years, many different use cases varying from supply chain finance to financial markets, and all of them need a payment leg." No, they don't. But JP Morgan, massive as it is just one bank. Rahm said he and his team, quote, "definitely anticipate several banks producing their own individual coin for their own individual ecosystem. Although not Finality's primary goal, there would still be a need for the equivalent of a corresponding banking between an ecosystem of bank coins," he said. So, if JPM coin were to be joined by a hypothetical Barclays coin, for example, Finality's token, known as USC, could operate as a bridge between these. Yeah, whatever. Quote, "As well as existing asset-side DLT projects, ergo bond issuance and collateral tokenization, we can imagine USC being compatible with and having benefit for something like JPM coin, where owners of the JPM coin might want to transfer their holdings to another bank coin," said Rahm. In other words, we could act like a tokenized correspondent channel. While JP Morgan wouldn't comment on this article, there's clearly some mutual admiration. And there's like a tweet here. Secret sauce. But more crucial to Finality's plan is connecting each decentralized market infrastructure, one for each currency jurisdiction, to a corresponding central bank. Stepping back, trade settlement today requires businesses to hold accounts in multiple locations to handle cash and securities, splintering liquidity and leading to a mess of post-trade pipes and buffers that kick in and delay the settlement of the trade. Cash held in reserve at a central bank being brought onto a blockchain would cut through the Gordian knot tying up each jurisdiction, making settlement instant, removing counterparty risk, and freeing up capital, Finality reckons. Exactly how this will be achieved involves a complex mix of regulatory and technical issues, a process Rahm described as, quote, "a journey of discovery," meaning we're just doing it, we're not worrying about it until somebody calls us to task. On the legal side, the new name hints at Finality's secret sauce, according to Robert Sams, CEO of Clearmatics, the consortium's tech partner. Describing how the system will work, he told CoinDesk, quote, "Legal settlement finality is happening inside the system's blockchain rather than across the books of a legacy settlement institution. This might appear to be a subtle distinction, but it's what turns a cryptographic key pair into cash itself." It's a foundational distinction. Yeah, no, it isn't. USC versus CBDCs. Flying under the radar for most of its 4-year existence, Finality has invited speculation about how cross-border tokenization fiat will be collateralized at a central bank level. Haidar Jaffrey, Strategic Investment and FinTech Innovation Manager at Swiss bank UBS, was one of Finality's shareholders, pointing to an important difference between so-called central bank digital currency projects and what Finality does. Jaffrey told CoinDesk, quote, "Central bank digital currency is issued by domestic central banks and hence backed by the central bank itself. The USC is commercial bank money. The design of it allows it to carry some of the characteristics of central bank money. Ultimately, how we are achieving that is through the cash collateral backing the USC sitting at the domestic central bank." What? Ultimately, how we are achieving that is through the cash collateral backing the USC sitting at the domestic central bank. It's a nuance, but it's very important. They're issuing fucking CDs on their savings account. Why can't you do that? Commercial bank and central bank money have different characteristics. The former carries credit and commercial counterparty risk. The latter carries sovereign risk. Finality is exploring an uncharted path between the two, Sams said. Quote, "Money is usually in the form of either commercial bank money, the liability of a commercial bank, or central bank money, the liability of a central bank," he told CoinDesk. But USC is a tokenized asset that has similar credit risk properties to central bank money without being a substitute for central bank money. Okay. Design and roadmap. Clearmatic's blockchain architecture for Finality is a private version of Ethereum called Autonity, a distributed state transition system where all participants on the chain keep a continually updated record of the blockchain's full state. Is essential to ensure the system's resiliency, Sams said. Such a full broadcast system has been tested at the central bank level by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and it raised some performance issues. However, Lee Brain of the CTO office of the investment bank at Barclays, another Finality shareholder, pointed out that volumes in the wholesale interbank space that Finality is targeted are very different from retail bank payments, and as such, the performance characteristics would also be very different. No, they wouldn't. While many market infrastructures tend to centralize parts of their blockchain solutions for the sake of efficiency, the resiliency aspect is at the heart of much central bank research with universities and others, Brain said. Looking ahead, Finality's complex roadmap will see things begin to come to fruition in 2020, the company said. Aside from UBS and Barclays, its shareholders include Banco Santander, BNY Mellon, CIBC, Commerce Bank, Credit Suisse, ING, KBC Group, Lloyds Banking Group, MUFG Bank, Nasdaq Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, and State Street. Speaking practically, the first products may be simple payments, said Brain. Then it would move to more complex currency swaps, for example, as a classic foreign exchange, or involving some kind of security formalized as delivery versus payment, meaning both sides of the trade are completed simultaneously. Quote, "As you move down that roadmap, you get greater value. but it's also the case that you need to integrate with market infrastructures to get more value, Brain said, concluding, so you imagine looking across clearinghouses and exchanges and thinking ahead a few years from now, you see the scenario where more of them are using tokenized assets. No, I don't. I think what's going to end up happening is that these guys are going to do this shit. And they're going to get heavily deep into it, right? And then somebody is going to facilitate an exploit they figured out 2 years ago while this shit was in testing. And these people are all fucked. And, we're going to get into, again, another aspect of why this is all useless today. And it's specifically the centralization aspect. And you'll get more of it as we're going along here. But for right now, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And we got some Death Angel, or Dark Angel rather, playing. And I like Dark Angel. And so let's go ahead and start there. And, what song though? Dark Angel. Man, this thing is getting long. Dark Angel. Let's see. I only got one album by them, so it kind of makes it easier and more difficult at the same time. Here. Let's go with this one. Sensory Deprivation. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Death Clock with Awaken. Yeah. So, love that song. Anyway, I was just checking out Twitter here. This guy, Roy Blackstone, he posts, a new generation of future crypto OGs have just been minted with this Matic dump. Welcome to crypto, assholes. And it's got this picture of Matic. Oh my god, dude. If that isn't like the classic cryptocurrency Space Needle, I've never seen one. Oh my god. Look at the drop on that too. That's probably like the 5-minute chart. Let me see if this is... Oh no. This is the daily. But still, man. Oh my god. Look at that fucking Space Needle. Green on one side, red on the other. Oh my god. That's tragic. That is just tragic. And what's worse is it doesn't even look like anything else on the chart that I can see here. So, I mean, of course, I can't see enough of the chart. It's just this one little segment from September to December. I would be willing to bet there is a similar such Space Needle on some part of its past, I would imagine. But yeah, dude, that's just tragic. From 550 Satoshis all the way back down to 220. Yeah, that's fucked up. And you can tell there was some buying and selling going on in between on the upside, but oh my gosh, that downside, it was just like somebody pulled the plug out of the fucking bathtub. Terrible. Sorry, crypto kids. If you've never experienced that before, that's crypto life for you. Every once in a while you get caught like that. I mean, even me, I've been trading for a very long time. I still fucking lose money. It still happens to me. You know? If you're not losing money, you're not trading. Okay, that's all there is to it. If you're not trading though, you're not making money either. So that's the thing. You got to trade to make the money, but sometimes when you trade, you lose money too. But it helps to check your fucking charts. When you're trying to make a decision on your entry and your exit, I mean, I've been making it a practice now to take it from the 1 day all the way down to the 5-minute, and just check the general trend of it, man. Look at it on the 30-minute, look at it on the 12-hour, if at all possible. But try and get a good perspective of the general trend. Now, it's not going to save you from every fucking Space Needle event like that Matic shit, but it will save you some money. I've used what little experience I have in trading a little more diligently, and I can see where I'm going to lose money a little better than I used to, but I still lose it. Anyway, so this next one I got here, I don't want to do that one, because that one's one we already did with BN Mellon. In Telegram documents, BN Mellon Credit Suisse helped process $1.7 billion ICO. Yeah, and that's still up in the air. So yeah, I don't really care if they're risking people's money, as long as the people investing their money know that it's at risk. That's what matters there. So, speaking of safety, apparently being an executive doesn't save your job. And so I got this thing here. It's on prnewswire.com. Ledger X announces change to executive leadership. And this is provided by Ledger X. This is authored December 9th, 2019 at 14:44 Eastern Time. New York, December 9th, 2019, PR Newswire. The Board of Directors of Ledger Holdings Incorporated, Ledger Holdings, parent company to Ledger X, the first federally regulated exchange and clearinghouse to list and fully collateralize physically settled Bitcoin swaps and options, today announced a change to its executive leadership. Effective immediately, co-founders and executives Paul and Juthika Chow have been placed on administrative leave. The board of directors appointed Larry E. Thompson as interim chief executive officer and lead director of Ledger Holdings. Mr. Thompson joins Ledger Holdings following an over 30-year career on Wall Street, where he served in a variety of senior level roles, including general counsel and most recently vice chairman of the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, DTCC. The board of Ledger Holdings is committed to the Bitcoin ecosystem and all of the Ledger Holdings stakeholders. For further information regarding LedgerX, please visit ledgerx.com, about LedgerX, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. I want more information on why they're firing those people. I think I've got the article here. Yeah, here we go. And this one's on CoinDesk, and it's by Nicholas D. LedgerX CEO and COO Paul and Juthika Chow are no longer running the company they founded. A press release Monday announced that the couple had been placed on, quote, on administrative leave, effective immediately, with Larry E. Thompson named as interim CEO and lead director of Ledger Holdings, the derivatives provider's parent company. Quote, the board composition is tricky, Juthika Chow told CoinDesk via email. There is nobody else on the board that knows computer science, Bitcoin, and derivatives, which makes these conflicts and disagreement even often difficult. Paul and I wish the new management team well. LedgerX offers Bitcoin derivatives products to institutional and retail investors in the U.S., primarily physically settled options and swaps contracts. The company failed in a bid to launch physically settled Bitcoin futures earlier this year through its application to modify a Commodity Futures Trading Commission registration. Allowing it to do so remains outstanding. The company has been working with the CFTC to secure its amendment since 2018. However, according to a pair of letters obtained by CoinDesk through a Freedom of Information request in September, the company's leadership believed former CFTC Chairman Christopher Giancarlo had a personal animus towards LedgerX due to a blog post written by Paul Chow. Paul Chow confirmed that the letters were accurate at the time. According to Monday's press release, Thompson comes from the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, where he held the role of vice chairman. DTCC Managing Director Mark Wetjen sits on LedgerX's board. Wetjen did not immediately return a request for comment. Quote, "The board of Ledger Holdings is committed to the Bitcoin ecosystem and all of the Ledger Holdings stakeholders," Monday's press release said. And damn it. Ooh, that's interesting. We might actually follow that one up. But anyway, so there's no comments on this. There should be comments on this. I'm disappointed that there isn't. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think I've kind of predicted that things like this would happen, but if not, this is kind of typical. We saw a lot of this with companies during the .com bubble and also during the Linux bubble. A lot of people have forgotten all about the Linux bubble. There was a brief period of time after Red Hat went public where anything associated with the words Linux, with the word Linux, it fucking went nuts. And if it had enterprise associated with it, it was even better. I mean, I was reading the prospectus for various companies that were going public that were of the similar vein, and it was just like reading a trashy shitcoins white paper. You know, that there were a lot of them. They were just trying to harvest on hype, and pathetically at that. I mean, I was reading one. It was a company that they built computers optimized for running Linux. I mean, big fucking whoop-de-doo, man. My desktop is optimized to run Linux. If it doesn't run one variant of Linux very well, I can probably find one that it runs better. It was kind of pathetic to watch, because I was familiar with who Red Hat was before before they actually came out and went public. And that was one IPO that I tried to get in on, and unfortunately was not able to get into the initial investment round. And as a matter of fact, I didn't get into it until it was already, I think, up over $60. But I actually made money on it. And I made money on its split, and then I lost a shit ton of money after that. But you know, that's one of those things where I probably would have either made more money or lost money quicker if I were operating it on my own. I think if I were operating that the way that I manage my cryptocurrency trades and whatnot, that I probably would have done a lot better. I don't know. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't, can't. But yeah, so this thing with the originators, you know, they probably took on some VC funds and just ended up getting bought out. You know, where enough of the interest ended up in other hands, you know, people that weren't associated with the initial executive board. And, you know, they were just basically voted out. And so now they're no longer running the company they started. It's kind of tragic. But it happens. I've seen it happen more times than I care to comment on. So let's see, that one, we already covered that. Covered. There was another one in here that I wanted to cover, though. No. That might be it, actually. No, it's not. Damn it. I keep getting lost in all my tabs here, because I had one story open like 8 times. Here we go. And you know, this is another thing to consider. You know, we've been talking a lot about people that are traditionally how should I say, custodians of our funds and our investment vehicles and our investment management. And speaking of such, there have been attempts to kind of replace all of that with semi-autonomous marketplaces. And so I got this article here. It's on medium.com. How to turn 20 million into 340 million in 15 seconds. And this is by Micah Zoltu. And yeah, let's get into this. TLDR, Funds Are Not Safu, or Safu. Yeah. The summary. Anyone with 40,000 MKR, maker, about 20 million USD, can steal all of the collateral in the maker DAO, both DAI and SAI, along with a good chunk of assets from Compound, Uniswap, and other maker integrated systems, over 340 million US dollars. Maker DAO V2, aka Multi-Collateral DAI, aka McDai, was supposed to launch with safeguards, emergency shutdowns, and governance delay against hostile MKR holders stealing all collateral and potentially robbing a good chunk of Uniswap, Compound, and other systems integrated with Maker in the process. Instead, they decided not to. The bank. Maker DAO, it is the thing that makes DAI work. It currently has about $340 million worth of Ethereum locked in it across their V1 and V2 releases. It also is a governed system, unlike Uniswap.exchange or Augur.net, which means some group of plutocrats can control how the system behaves. Oh, and worse yet, they've been talking about they're about to try and make Ethereum into proof of stake. That's like double fucked. Anyway, continuing on. The design. The governance system can call a wide variety of internal functions that allow the governors to do just about whatever they want. Governance is a fairly simple stake the leader system where you stake your MKR on the contract that you want to have control over the system, and the contract with the most staked MKR is given that control. Since the current executive contract, aka executive proposal, has about 80,000 MKR staked on it, the naive cost of doing just about whatever you want with the maker contracts is about 80,000 MKR, or about 41 million US dollars. To mitigate the threat of malicious actors, the system has a mechanism which makes it so after a new executive contract is chosen, there is a delay before it can take any actions. During this delay, anyone with a sufficient amount of MKR can trigger a global settlement of the whole system, effectively shutting it down before the new executive contract can do anything untoward. This means that if a thief showed up and tried to vote on their own executive contract that is programmed to steal all of the collateral, even if they had more stake than the other executive contracts, they would have to wait for that delay and hope no one triggered the defense mechanisms during that time. The negligence. The problem is, Maker Foundation has decided that the appropriate value for this governance delay is 0 seconds. That's right, defenders have 0 seconds to defend against an attack launched by a wealthy but malicious party. The subtlety. Given the above, an attacker could do the following. Number 1. Acquire 80,000 Maker through whatever means possible. Number 2. Create an executive contract that is programmed to transfer all collateral from Maker to you. Number 3. Immediately, in the same transaction, vote on the contract. Number 4. Immediately, in the same transaction, activate the contract. Number 5. Ride off into the sunset with 340 million US dollars worth of Ethereum. Don't bother going back for your MKR. It will be worthless after this. This is incredibly profitable, 8 times return on investment, but it is expensive to execute. Luckily, we can knock the cost of that attack down 50% of that by simply being patient. Remember above how we described the way the current voting system works is that the executive contract with the most votes is the one with all of the control. Anytime a governance vote is proposed, there is a time period over which MKR's stake migrates from the old executive contract to the new one. This never happens all at once. It usually happens over time as individuals migrate their votes forward. There will be a point in time where that 80,000 actively participating MKR will be split into two executive contracts, with each having approximately 40,000 maker in it. A good script kiddie can easily time a transaction such that it lands right when the MKR is distributed optimally between the two contracts and execute the above attack at that time, only costing some amount over 40,000 MKR, about $20 million. The cash register. If stealing $340 million isn't enough for you, you could also mint yourself a quadrillion DAI as part of the attack execution. In the same transaction as you rob Maker, you could take that DAI over to Uniswap and steal all of the Ethereum liquidity available in the DAI ETH pair. For a bit of extra change from the pockets of hapless bank patrons, you could also go over to a Compound and lend out a quadrillion DAI and borrow all available lent capital. You would never repay the loan, just keep the borrowed assets. If you act quickly, you may even be able to cash out on semi-decentralized exchanges like IDEX, Paradex, Radar Relay, etc., immediately after minting all that DAI. The crowd. But wait, there's more! Ethereum is a system built on binding agreements. This means that one could create a smart contract where multiple people who don't trust each other can collude under a strict set of rules. The set of rules might be something like this. If this contract collects 40,000 MKR, then anyone can trigger it, and it will immediately rob Maker. Upon successful robbery, the loot will be divided evenly up among MKR contributors. Upon failed robbery, MKR can be withdrawn by participants. At any time, anyone can withdraw their MKR. This very simple contract is a binding agreement between everyone who contributes MKR to the contract, and there is no need for anyone to trust each other like with the traditional heist. No one can run away with all of the loot, no one can steal any other participant's contribution, and no one can use the contributed MKR for anything other than executing the agreed upon heist. One may argue, and the Maker Foundation does, that any attackers must telegraph their presence to crowdsource, and Maker Foundation could simply break their rule of, quote, "we don't participate in governance," to stop the attack by throttling all of the Foundation's MKR into the vote, thus making it now cost 400 million MKR instead of 40,000 MKR. While it is true that Maker Foundation could prevent this if they saw it coming, there is no guarantee that they will see it coming. For example, the attackers may have capital elsewhere, and they could use it to acquire MKR over time off of exchanges. The attackers may also may be MKR holders who know other MKR holders with a certain moral turpitude and could coordinate in private. Even if the binding agreement contract was public knowledge, it could be designed in a way to obfuscate the crowdsourcing. For example, you could have everyone who is interested submit a pre-signed transaction to a central service provider. No need to fully trust them. And then the central service provider would wait to broadcast those transactions until enough MKR was ready to mobilize. In such a scenario, either Maker Foundation steps in to centrally control the system without knowing if anyone is actually contributing, or they do nothing and risk that at any moment the attack could happen and they would be powerless to respond in time. There is a third option on that the author didn't include in this, and that is participate in the attack when it happens, because nobody else will be able to figure out that it's you. The insiders. It is worth noting that Maker Foundation could attack the system in this way right now if they wanted. Shit, they covered it. They have way more than 80,000 MKR necessary. What is worse, A16Z has enough MKR on hand right now to execute the attack the patient way. There are a couple other MKR holders whose identity is unknown to me who hold enough to execute the patient version of the attack as well. And then, after that, there are a handful that would need to collude with one or two others to execute the attack. What should scare you here is that this isn't DeFi and this isn't CeFi, but instead of only one person being able to steal all of your money, the bank or any of a number of large individual shareholders or a group of smaller shareholders could decide to steal all of your money at any time. The fallout. So, what happens to Maker users if someone executes this attack? For starters, everyone with a CDP/vault would be wiped out. The direct theft is stealing all of the collateral. The knock-on effect of that is that DAI would become 100% under-collateralized and its price would likely go to zero. Following that, MKR value would likely go to zero since their entire system basically failed, and resurrecting it is unlikely after that kind of failure. It is possible that Ethereum would take a bit of a licking as well, since this would be yet another massive failure within the Ethereum ecosystem. I suspect it would recover because it is still a good platform, but a reminder that, quote, people can build bad things on top of good things is sobering for irrational exuberance. The defense. I have brought up this attack scenario with Maker, and they have expressly stated that it is not worth them giving up instantaneous governance control to protect against this attack. The general theme of their defense arguments are as follows. Paraphrased by me, talk to them if you want first-hand statements, along with my rebuttals. Number 1. The attack vector has existed quite a while, but things are fine so far. Heartbleed OpenSSL attack existed for 10 years before it was found. Maker's source code is notoriously hard to follow and a big complaint by a large portion of the Ethereum dev community. I have personally told them previously that I didn't audit Maker's contracts because it was too hard to read their code. I finally bit the bullet and dug into Maker v2 because it was supposed to be secure, unlike Maker v1, which was well known to be insecure, though I didn't realize just how insecure it was. Just because no one has executed an attack yet doesn't mean that they will not execute the attack in the future. This is especially true when the vector becomes more widely known. And not only that, especially when the value of the fucking target increases. Continuing. Number 2. It is too expensive for anyone but a select few people to execute. See the crowd section above. Also note that it only takes one person to attack, so, quote, too expensive for a select few doesn't make a system secure. Number 3. An attacker would have to telegraph their attack. Only if the attack comes from a large section of MKR holders working together, and only if Maker is willing to put up a defense at the mere hint that someone might be prepping for an attack. 4. We would take legal action against any attackers. This one basically spits in the face of DeFi. A lot of people within the Ethereum ecosystem are expressly trying to protect themselves from totalitarian governments, claiming that, quote, your money is safe because those thugs that you're hiding from will protect you, is not reassuring at all. Also, it presumes that the attackers are not anonymous. See below. 5. It is hard to be anonymous on Ethereum. Yes, it is a bit tricky to be anonymous on Ethereum. Despite that, the DAO attacker is still unknown. Satoshi is still unknown. Many very wealthy ETH holders are still unknown. Being hard isn't a good defense against massively profitable. Isn't a good defense against a massively profitable attack. Yes, no, it is not. 6. It is a known risk, but there are unknown risks that may be worse. I disagree pretty strongly with this risk assessment. You have a known risk, where it is incredibly profitable to attack the system, and that is being compared against unknown risks of unknown impact and unknown likelihood. This line of thinking is along the lines of, quote, there is no attack vector that is worth us giving up our control for. The disclosure. Maker has been aware of this issue since before Maker v2 launched, probably since the beginning. Despite this, they are choosing not to plug the hole. The plug is easy. Because of that, I do not believe that it would be responsible for me to keep my mouth shut and hope that no attacker figures out what should be obvious to anyone who understands Maker's governance model. The promotion. I rarely blog, but feel free to comment, subscribe if you want a gem like this one every now and then, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. So let's get into the comments, because those are usually quite revealing, and sometimes the accused parties respond. Nick C says, the delay time is being voted on. It's likely increasing from 0 to 24 hours. The justification is not as you put it in the article, but for the purpose of rapidly resolving bugs as they're discovered. Now the system is matured, it can be increased to 24 hours. I agree with that, yeah. And there is a response to this, though. Let's check that out. Let's see what the response is. One response. Micah Zoltu says 24 hours is certainly significantly better than 0 hours. I personally think it is too short, though, because with 24 hours, it just means you execute the attack when you know it is likely that people aren't paying attention, such as during major holidays or Ethereum events, ergo DevCon. I'm going to give that one a clap. That's on point. So yeah, let's get back to the comments on this here. So let's see, get back to that. Back. Let's see here. So then we got that one. Okay. And Alex Van de Sand says, let's see, this means that if a thief showed up and tried to vote on their own executive contract that is programmed to steal all collateral, even if they had more stake than the other, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That seems insufficient protections, to be honest. Suppose MKR increases the governance delay. That still means that the evil executive contract could still pull this off, as long as it's not obviously fraudulent. So, if a group can convince others that they are a superior, more decentralized governance model, if they can sneak some functionality in that goes unnoticed, then they can get executive vote, and then wait for the delay, and then steal all the collateral. In fact, it makes the system more complex, because it's not only about auditing the maker code, but also the code of any executive contract candidate. Why does Maker even allows the contract to be moved to arbitrary addresses instead of having a very strict set of rules of when and who can get the collateral? Wow, that's pretty interesting. Christoph L. says, just FYI, the hypothesis that 40,000 Maker is worth $20 million US is theoretical only at the current state. Market liquidity is not high. Yeah, okay. Daniel says, count me in for the crowdfunding this. Alexander Bulkin says, a cute take for sure, but I think the biggest impediment to successfully carrying out the attack is the immediate reaction of the ETH markets. The ETH attacker will not only be hard to get rid of, legal reasons, plus you're setting yourself up to have some powerful people very angry at you, but most importantly, it won't be very valuable after the attack. It's the same reason a 51% attack on Bitcoin is not likely, even if the miners collude or centralized. Not a great argument for security, though, especially once bad actors start profiting from attacking Ethereum rather than just stealing Ether. Yeah. I think that the issues that we're talking about here are only going to get worse, especially if Ethereum decides to actually go through with proof of stake. Because then it's a matter of validators. And validators, they're a little bit different than miners in what they're doing. And also, it has been argued by some that because of what they do, they would fall under some regulatory scrutiny or at least some regulatory frameworks that already exist. So, yeah, it becomes an issue, you know. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into music for just a few here. And, you know, we haven't played any fucking Ministry. Here it is, Rio Grande Blood, here on Coin Metal. I just needed a little hair of filler there. That was Irreversible Mechanism with Limbo. Yeah, and it is with that I'd like to bring this episode to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Friday. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be here on Wednesday. I think I have something coming up on Wednesday that I have to attend to, and unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to get back here in time for that. So, in any case, we will be back on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, I want you all to trade safe. Do your homework! And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Thank you again for listening, and as far as our last dance is concerned, let's see here. I haven't picked one out. I was coming up on it. I really was. But I hadn't quite gotten there. Here it is. Infectious Grooves, Punk It Up. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.